Emma had been dreaming of this day for months, moving into Willow Creek Estates, a neighborhood that promised peace, quiet, and the fresh start she desperately needed. After years of living in a cramped city apartment filled with noise and chaos, the tidy streets and manicured lawns were like a balm to her frayed nerves. She imagined weekend barbecues, chatting with neighbors, and the simple joy of calm evenings on her porch. But the peace was short-lived. On her second morning, as she sipped coffee watching the sunrise, a folded note fluttered onto her doorstep. It was written in crisp, formal handwriting and read, "Dear resident, your hedges are not trimmed to HOA standards. Please rectify this immediately to avoid penalties. Sincerely, Karen, HOA President." Emma blinked. She hadn't even noticed her bushes were untidy. They looked fine to her, maybe a little wild, but hardly worth a reprimand. She felt a strange chill crawl down her spine. That afternoon, Emma decided to meet Karen and introduce herself, hoping to clear the air before things got worse. But when she knocked on the door of the HOA office, a small, beige building at the end of the street, no one answered. The blinds were tightly shut. A faint sound of shuffling papers came from inside, but no greeting. Instead, as she turned to leave, Emma noticed something odd across the street. A cluster of neighbors stood in silence, watching her with cold eyes. The air felt thick and heavy. That night, Emma's peaceful world shattered further. Just as she was about to close her window, she heard footsteps crunching softly in the gravel outside. Shadows flickered under the porch light. She pulled back the curtain slowly, heart pounding. 3 figures, dressed in dark jackets with HOA emblazoned on the back, were moving stealthily along the fence line. They carried large cardboard boxes, slinking between yards like thieves in the night. Emma's phone buzzed suddenly on the table. She jumped and glanced at the screen. "We're watching. Fix your hedges." The message was anonymous. The threat unmistakable. Emma swallowed hard. Something was very wrong here. The next morning, the street was oddly silent. No friendly greetings, no morning joggers. Just the oppressive quiet of suspicion. Emma knew then that she wasn't just a new neighbor. She was under a microscope. And Karen's grip on Willow Creek Estates was tighter, and darker, than she ever imagined. Emma's resolve hardened overnight. She refused to be bullied by anonymous threats or mysterious midnight visitors. The next morning, she marched to the HOA office again, determined to speak with Karen directly. This time, the blinds were partially open, but the receptionist, a woman with sharp eyes and a tight smile, answered the phone instead of opening the door. Emma introduced herself and asked firmly to speak with Karen about the threatening message and the late-night trespassing. The receptionist's tone instantly shifted, icy, dismissive. "Karen is unavailable. Maybe you misunderstood. These are neighborhood concerns, nothing serious," she said, voice dripping with condescension. Emma pressed further, explaining she had evidence and wanted to file a complaint. The receptionist abruptly ended the call, leaving Emma frustrated and feeling more isolated than before. As she walked back home, Emma noticed her hedges under closer inspection. They looked fine to her, but suddenly, they seemed too unkempt. Doubt crept in. Was she really the problem here, or was this something else? Later that afternoon, as Emma clipped a stray branch, she sensed a presence behind her. She turned sharply to see a tall figure step out from the shadows near the fence line. The figure wore the standard HOA jacket, but the baseball cap obscured their face, the brim pulled low to shadow their eyes. Before Emma could ask who they were or why they were lurking near her yard, the figure silently extended a small, sealed envelope toward her. Their gloved hand dropped it in hers, then they disappeared down the street before she could react. Emma's fingers trembled as she opened the envelope inside. It contained a single photo, a snapshot of her front porch, taken only hours ago. The image was grainy but unmistakably recent. On the back, scrawled in messy, angry handwriting, were the words. "Stay in line, Emma, or this is just the beginning." Her blood ran cold. Emma's phone buzzed again that evening. She stared at the screen, no caller ID, no message. But minutes later, the power in her house flickered violently, then died. She was plunged into darkness. The faint sound of deliberate footsteps echoed from outside. Slow, measured. As if someone was pacing just beyond the windows. Emma held her breath, heart hammering in her chest. In Willow Creek Estates, the rules were no longer just about lawns or hedges. They were about control. And Emma was about to find out just how far Karen, and whoever was working for her, would go to keep that control unchallenged. The blackout lasted only minutes, but for Emma, those minutes stretched into eternity. Every creak, every whisper of wind outside her windows felt magnified in the suffocating darkness. She gripped her phone, using its faint glow to scan the room. Her fingers hovered over the screen, debating whether to call the police. But what would she say? A power outage and a creepy letter? Without concrete proof, the police might dismiss her concerns, just like the HOA office had. Suddenly, a sharp knock shattered the silence. Emma froze. The knocking continued, slow, deliberate, at her front door. Her mind raced. Could she open it? Or was this another trap? "Emma, open up," a voice called softly. It was her neighbor, Mr. Henderson, an older man known for his kindness. She hurried to the door and pulled it open a crack. "Are you okay? I saw those lights go out. Heard footsteps around your place earlier," he said, worry etched on his face. Emma's relief was palpable. "Thanks, Mr. Henderson. I'm scared. I think someone's watching me. The HOA's acting more like a gang than a community." He nodded grimly. "You're not alone. Last week, I found strange marks on my garage door. And my wife got a note, too. This Karen isn't just strict. She's dangerous." Emma glanced down the street. The usually cheerful neighborhood seemed transformed, darkened houses, closed blinds, neighbors disappearing indoors at dusk. Her fight had just begun. The next morning, Emma discovered her mailbox torn open, papers strewn across the sidewalk. Among them, a single sheet with an ominous message typed in bold red letters. "Last warning. Comply or leave." But Emma wasn't backing down. She started documenting everything: photos of her hedges, security footage from a new camera she installed, copies of every threatening message. Emma knew she needed allies. That afternoon, she knocked on doors, quietly gathering neighbors who had suffered Karen's wrath but stayed silent out of fear. In hushed tones, they shared stories of intimidation, vandalism, and threats, each tale more disturbing than the last. The community was a powder keg. And Emma was the spark ready to ignite it. As evening fell, Emma sat on her porch, clutching a flashlight and her phone, watching shadows move just beyond the street lamp's glow. She whispered to herself, "This ends now." But in the distance, the faint sound of a car engine revving broke the stillness, too close, too deliberate. Emma's eyes widened. Karen wasn't done with her yet.